I just want to give a quick trigger warning. The first story, it does deal with drug addiction, drug abuse, alcoholism, and infanticide. Infanticide is a person who kills an infant, especially their own child. So listener discretion is advised.
Welcome to Tale of Two Dead Girls, the podcast. This is your host, Kayla.
And I'm your host, Kayle.
And we are here with episode 30. We got 2 stories for you, and I think it's 1 paranormal and 1 true crime.
Yep, mine's true crime.
Yes, mine is paranormal. So Kayle's gonna go first today, and I'll go second.
Yeah, so I'm going first today. And the story that I have for you guys today is about Megan Huntsman. It's about a mother who killed 6 of her newborn babies, and she's from American Fork, Utah, which is pretty close to where I live. It's about an hour away from me. So Megan Huntsman was born on February 27th, 1975 in Pleasant Grove, Utah. Her parents were Blaine and Joyce Huntsman. They married on September 16th, 1971, and they were both Mormons. Her father was a painter, and her mother worked at a local grocery store. All of the children were loved and well taken care of. The family seemed as if they were a very tight-knit, all-American close family. Megan was the oldest sibling of 2 younger sisters. Megan's mother, Joyce, said that Megan was a shy, quiet girl. She was more of an introvert and rarely liked to share her personal details of her life or ask for help. And at the age of 18, Megan got pregnant, and she moved out of her family's home to marry the father, Darren West. Darren had already graduated high school, and he was in the Marines, and he was taking classes at a community college. The couple got married in April of 1993, and it's reported that Megan actually had hid the pregnancy from everyone right up until she was due. So
Wow.
Their first daughter was Darian, and she was born later the same year of their marriage, so 1993. The couple lived in a home that was Darren's parents' home. It was like a home that they owned, but they didn't live at, from what I understand. Darren went on to work in construction, and Megan cleaned houses and babysat for extra money. In 1994, the couple had their second daughter, Jacy. Megan also reportedly kept this pregnancy secret up until she was nearly due again. And sometime after Jacy was born, the couple began to experiment with drugs, and it pretty much turned into a full-blown meth addiction.
Great.
They were also alcoholics, so just drugs and alcohol, didn't really mix. Both Darren and Megan used meth, and they drank alcohol every day, and her family members were unaware of their addiction. In 2006, Darren was arrested and sentenced to 8 years in prison for drug-related charges. So I think it was because he was making and distributing meth.
Yikes.
Yeah, so Darren's parents owned the home again, so they allowed Megan and their daughters to live there when he was sent off to prison, but they had a stipulation that she had to stay faithful to Darren in order to live there. And so in 2011, and sorry guys, the timeline on this story is kind of wacky, so just try to bear with me because I can't tell you everything in order. I have to kind of bounce around a little bit. But in 2011, Darren's parents found out that Megan had a boyfriend, and they made her leave the home. And in 2014, Darren was released from prison, and when he went to the home to gather up his belongings, because he was going to a halfway house, he started going through boxes in the garage, and he discovered a deceased infant.
Oh, no. Oh, my God.
So, yeah, he immediately called 911, and he told the police what he discovered. And he said, basically, it appeared to be a full-term baby that was deceased inside of a box in his garage.
Jeez.
So it was reported in some sources that he called Megan to tell her what he found because he was like, what the hell? And when he did, she said that she had a miscarriage and she was too embarrassed to tell anybody because of the addiction. And Darren told her that he had already called the police and that they were on their way. And Megan was with her new boyfriend at the time and basically told him that she wanted his gun and that she was going to kill herself. And he was able to stop her, obviously, but when police arrived, they searched the home and they searched through the other boxes in the garage. And by the end of the search, the police found 6 additional infants stuffed in separate cardboard boxes.
Oh my God.
So this made 7 deceased infants in the garage total.
Jeez. Ew, did it smell?
Honestly, that's what a lot of the news reports were saying, is that nobody smelled anything, like
Oh my
nobody
god.
knew anything. And the weird thing to me is that when Darren was arrested, it's because he had like equipment to like make and distribute meth. And so it's like they
Oh,
had to search the home
yeah.
at some point, and I guess they just didn't think to go through all the boxes, which just seems like sloppy police work a little bit.
Yeah. What
Because
the
usually when they
hell?
do drug searches, they like tear everything apart. They like tear the walls down and shit. So it's
Yeah.
kind of like crazy in that sense.
Wait, does meth smell?
I think it does have a smell, but I don't know because I might be mixing that with heroin because I know heroin does. I know that like meth can like kill you when you're making it because of the fumes and stuff, like the chemicals, but I'm not
Yeah.
sure. Each baby had been wrapped in a towel or a sweater and then wrapped in plastic wrap and then stored inside of shoe boxes that were shoed or that were stored into other boxes. And the boxes were stacked up against the garage walls. And like some were labeled like Christmas, some were labeled storage, just had like random labels on them.
That's so messed up.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, this is Christmas decorations. Psych, it's my dead baby.
Yeah.
Oh my
So
god. That
crazy.
that I murdered. Not me, the person in the story. Not
Yeah.
me.
Not me.
Not me.
Megan was 39 at the time and she was immediately arrested and taken into custody. Darren was also taken in to be interviewed. He claimed that he never knew that Megan was pregnant and he believed that he was the father of all the babies.
Oh,
DNA samples were taken and it was determined that he was the father of all seven dead infants.
oh my god.
So basically, Megan had those babies during a 10-year period between 1996 and 2006. It's kind of unclear, like the timeline of when the babies were actually born. But in 2000, Megan became pregnant, and this time her pregnancy did not go unnoticed. So she actually gave birth to another daughter. And this was their third living daughter, Sawyer. But it's unclear whether Sawyer was born with any medical issues or a meth addiction because at the time, again, she was full blown like addicted to drugs. At the time, Megan was charged with 7 counts of homicide along with other charges for hiding the bodies. But during the autopsies, medical examiners stated that it was hard to tell which order the babies were born or murdered in due to the level of decay. But 5 of the babies were female and 2 were male. After the autopsies were performed, it was determined that one of the 7 babies was actually a stillborn. So that did reduce her charges to 6 counts of homicide instead of 7. But I assume she still got charged with something like for hiding the body or
Right. Yeah.
maybe like a desecration or something. I didn't look up her exact charges. She did plead guilty to all 6 charges. It actually is on YouTube. You can listen to her. She very shakily and quietly pleads guilty to each charge.
Oh my god.
So that's what she did, and then basically during the time, she wore baggy clothing. She didn't really leave her house much. This is kind of how she concealed the pregnancies. She continued to use meth during the entire pregnancies, and when she went into labor, every time she just quietly gave birth alone in her home. And once the baby was born, within 2 minutes, she either smothered or choked the babies to death. And it's reported that she even placed hair ties around some of the babies' necks to, quote, make sure they were dead.
What is the reason? She'd have the
Yeah.
baby and kill them like right away?
Yeah, right away,
That
within two
makes
minutes.
no sense. No sense at all. What is fucking wrong with this lady?
Yeah, so we'll get into it a little bit, but still, it does not make sense. There was even a report that she had given birth in the bathroom while Darren and his brother and sister were in the home, like in the living room, and nobody knew. Like, I don't know how this
What
woman
the
is
hell?
just dropping babies without
Maybe
like.
maybe she has like, oh my god, maybe she was like so methed out that like she just didn't feel it and so she's
I
not
honestly, that's
screaming.
gotta be like what it is.
Like she knows like, okay, it's already like 9 months. I'm gonna pop this baby out at some point, so I need to be high as fuck so I don't feel it or make noise. Oh my
Pretty
god,
much.
this is like horrific.
Yeah,
This is
so terrible.
horrifying.
Yeah, it's awful. So when she would kill them, then she would make sure she wrapped them in a cloth or a sweater or towel. She would put them inside of a plastic bag and then put the bag into a shoebox, and then she would put the shoebox into another box and just seal the box up with tape. So when the police interviewed Megan, she had been fully cooperative the whole investigation. She was honest with them. She told them everything. Didn't try to fight pleading guilty. But at one point when they first interviewed her, she admitted she lost count of how many babies there were, and she actually thought there were 8 or 9 babies.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
She just said that she basically felt like she had no way of caring for the baby and to keep her addiction at the same time. So essentially, she decided to choose the drugs over the babies. And she was quoted saying, "In some small way, I wanted to help them avoid the terrible life I would have given them. I deprived my little babies the opportunity of life."
Yeah, she could have given them up for adoption. She
Yeah.
doesn't have to
Or like,
kill
yeah,
them.
it gets worse
Oh god.
because there's
How?
something I'll tell you at the end. Well, I
God,
mean,
how
like,
can it get worse?
morally worse. I mean, there's multiple
uh,
things. Like, she could have used birth control, she could have gotten abortion, she could
she could
have,
have just not gotten pregnant. Yeah, she could have gotten her
yeah,
tubes tied.
like there's so many things. But also with like, I mean, with meth addiction, I mean, I don't know how familiar our listeners are with it, but it basically is one of the drugs that makes you so paranoid. Like, there's things called meth bugs where they literally feel like there's bugs crawling inside of their skin.
oh
That's why they
god.
like pick their skin. I
Ooh.
mean, there's like, extreme paranoia that comes involved with that. It doesn't excuse what she did, but it definitely can put in perspective her mindset at the time of just being like, this is okay, like, this is fine. So police said that Megan told them why she stored the babies, but the police refused to elaborate on what exactly she said. It's never been released what her explanation was. The police
Damn.
basically just said that it didn't make sense to them, and so they just didn't feel the need to share it, which I guess, I don't know, makes sense because it was probably just some rambling about her addiction or something. I honestly don't know.
Yeah.
Darren admitted that there were a few times that he suspected that she was pregnant, but that Megan stated she had a miscarriage. And he was so messed up on drugs that he didn't fully process what was going on or give it a second thought when she said that. He probably just thought, well, she's on drugs. Like, that's why the baby miscarried or whatever. Neighbors that were interviewed said they loved Megan and Darren. They never imagined Megan being capable of anything like this. And they didn't even know about her drug addiction or any pregnancies other than her 3 living daughters. Many neighbors let her babysit their kids. One woman even let her child go to Disneyland with Megan and her kids. Overall, the neighbors really just thought she was a very nice woman and mother. Like, they had no idea that this happened or that they were even drug addicts. Which kind of like makes me question that, because when they got raided or arrested, like if he went to prison, I mean, they had to have known at that point that there was something, but maybe they just didn't think she was involved.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's
because she didn't go to jail, so maybe they just thought, oh, she wasn't involved.
maybe she's also just super convincing and persuasive and maybe
Yeah,
maybe told some bullshit lies that made people believe her. Maybe she like
could
did
be.
the I'm gonna make you feel bad for me kind of thing.
Yeah, could be. In 2015, Megan was sentenced to 30 years to life in prison. She is eligible for parole, but it's very doubtful that she will ever actually be released. So, to me, what makes this case a little bit worse is that in 2001, a law was passed in Utah called the Newborn Safe Haven Law. This law allows for anyone with a newborn less than 72 hours old to take their newborn to a hospital and turn it over to any hospital worker, no questions asked. The person will not be held, questioned, or made to sign anything. They're able to just drop the baby off and leave, and the baby will be taken care of and eventually put up for immediate adoption. So to me, it makes it extremely inexcusable, like alongside the fact of she could have used other methods of birth control. And regardless of her addiction, she did have other options. Like, there's just the fact that she could have just taken these babies to the hospital. No one would know her name. No one would know
Oh,
why she's doing it. She could
yeah.
just hand it over to a nurse or doctor or whoever and be like, bye.
My thought was like, well, my first thought when you started saying that was like she could have maybe she decided to end the baby's lives because she couldn't afford to go to the hospital. Because, like, having a baby is like hella expensive.
Yeah.
So it's like maybe she was like, oh my god, I can't afford to go to the hospital. So I'm just going to have the babies here and then unalive them.
Yeah. Honestly, I don't know, but it's disturbing. I think honestly just the meth probably had a huge role in what she did. But it's a lot of reports say that once Darren went to prison that she stopped using meth and just went into full-blown like alcoholic instead because he was her supplier. I don't know how true that is, but because the story's old, it's and Utah is like so hard to find full news stories on because we bury everything here. Um, but yeah, it's just crazy to me that she was a good mom on the outside to all of her kids. And like her kids were pretty much, besides the younger one, I think they were like almost full grown when she got arrested. Like one was like in their
Wow.
20s. One was, I mean, obviously I had the dates here. I didn't do the math, but yeah, so it's kind of crazy. Like imagine I mean, I just wonder if she actually was a good mom.
I don't know. Maybe. I mean, if those three kids never like complained.
Yeah, you never know.
So how old were they when she was killing these babies?
Let's see. So the first daughter was born in 1993 and she was arrested in 2014. So the first daughter was 21.
And also, but the babies that she was killing, that was between 1996 and 2006, right? For 10 years, she was killing
Yes.
babies, and she
Yeah.
already had kids. Or
Yeah.
at least a kid.
Yeah, she had two kids because their second daughter was born in 1994. So in 1993, 1994, and then in 2000. So
Wow.
that's because when the 2000 baby Sawyer was born, it's basically what they reported is that she couldn't hide that pregnancy. Like that pregnancy was noticed. And so she knew, like
Mhm.
people knew. So she knew she would have to like go through with it, I guess.
Yeah, that
But
makes sense.
I mean, it doesn't say anywhere that she ever stopped using meth when she did have that baby.
Oh
So
my
I don't know if there
gosh.
was anything wrong with the baby. Hopefully not. But yeah, so she's still, that's the thing that boggles my mind is that she still had three children while she was doing this. And so when she says like, I didn't want to give them a horrible life. Well, you already have three kids that you're, giving a life to. And I guess in 2011, when she actually got kicked out of the home, that the children actually lived with other family members, I think. So probably between 2011 and 2014, her kids were probably already just living with family members at that point.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my crazy, sad story. Sorry, everyone.
Okay, so my story is it is the exorcisms of Latoya Ammons. I think that's how you pronounce her last name. But the story is also known as the Demon House. It's a case from Gary, Indiana. So during the fall of 2011, single mother Latoya Ammons, her three kids, and her mother, Rosa Campbell, all moved into a rental house on Carolina Street. Latoya's children were two boys, the age of 7 and 9, and a daughter who was 12. They were living in their new house for about a month before strange things started happening in and around the house, and just to the people that were living there, even when they were outside of the house. In December, a swarm of horseflies appeared in their screened in porch and would not go away.
No, I hate horseflies. It hurts so bad when they bite you.
Wait, flies bite you?
The horse flies and deer flies, they bite you and it freaking hurts.
Oh my god, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's awful. It swells up like a mosquito bite, but like immediately and it hurts.
Oh my god. Well, these flies were there in December, and no matter how many times they tried to kill them or tried to prevent them from coming, they were still there. And from what I know, flies aren't really supposed to be, or like they're not really out when it's cold. Like during the winter, you don't really see flies.
Where was this at again?
Gary, Indiana. So the
Oh,
is that the
okay.
East Coast or the what Midwest? I'm not sure. Okay, anyways, after that, more unusual things continued happening. One time, just after midnight, Latoya and her mom heard footsteps going up the basement stairs, and the door between the basement and kitchen was creaking as it was opening. They thought someone broke into the house, so fearing for their lives, they waited in their bedroom for a long while, and then after some time, Latoya turned on the lights and went to check out the kitchen and basement, but nobody was there. After that, they still heard the footsteps and sounds like if someone was in the house, even after fully inspecting it. They would hear pounding on the door and something like an animal growling. I also heard that they heard dogs barking in the kitchen, and they didn't have any pets. One night, Rosa saw a shadow figure of a man pacing back and forth in her living room. She laid in bed, paralyzed with fear, thinking it was an intruder until the morning, and then went to investigate. All the doors and windows were still locked, as if no one was ever in the house besides herself. But yet they found large, wet footprints in the living room. The evening of March 10th, 2012, Latoya's daughter had claimed that she had been pulled off of the couch by an unseen force. Shortly after, one of her sons was thrown into a freezer near the living room. Sometime after the children had gone to bed that day, Latoya heard a very loud cry coming from her daughter's room where her cousin was spending the night in. So her 12-year-old daughter and her cousin were having like a little sleepover, whatever. And the grandma, Rosa, goes to the room when she hears the cousin cry. She turns on the light and she sees Latoya's daughter levitating above her bed, and when she walks in and she sees the daughter drop. So she sees her like drop onto the bed, and her cousin said that because she was like, what is going on? Like, what just happened? And then the cousin is like, I don't know. She's still sleeping. Like, she was still asleep when this was happening. She was just above the bed.
No, I don't like that. That's so scary. If I ever saw someone floating,
I'm out.
I would probably just disintegrate. Like,
it's scary. That's my nightmare.
Yeah. Or to like wake up levitating. No.
Ew,
no.
Stop! Oh my
Sorry.
God. I've been sleeping alone in my apartment lately, so that's scary.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
So Latoya and Rosa then begged for help at the local churches, but nobody was willing to help. There was like more things going on, that I'm sure wasn't stated, but they felt enough like where they needed to go and like seek help at like churches.
Yeah.
But nobody was willing to help. But eventually, after visiting a small community church, the minister visited Latoya's house and declared it was troubled by spirits.
Bom, bom, bom.
He recommended that they clean the place entirely with bleach and ammonia, and then adding crosses on all of the doors and windows. And then he also anointed, or either he did it or he told her to do it, but like anointed all of the family members with olive oil. But this didn't really do much for the spiritually tormented family. So Latoya and her mom contacted 2 clairvoyants. They told Latoya that her home was infested with more than 200 demonic entities and that the forces were residing in the basement.
Oh my.
It's infested? Always in the basement. Yeah, infested.
I'd rather have like termites or something.
Oh my God, yeah.
Oh no.
The clairvoyants encouraged the family to get out of the house as soon as possible, but with the family having nowhere to go, Latoya had thought of a backup plan. Or I think the clairvoyants had like suggested that she do this thing, and so she was like, all right, we're gonna do it. So she went down to the basement and covered a table with a sheet and placed a white candle plus a statue of the Holy Family on it. She was building an altar. Latoya then dressed in white and used a sage bundle she got from a local occult shop to burn it through the house, reading Psalm 91, invoking God's protection. Part of that psalm reads, "Because you have made the Lord my refuge, the Most High your dwelling place, no harm will come to you. No plague will come near your tent, for he will give his angels orders concerning you, to protect you in all your ways." That's only some of it. It's a little bit longer than that. But after she did the blessing on every room of the house, she went back down to the basement and opened the Bible to Psalm 91 and put it on the altar. After this, it was quiet for about 3 days. Usually how it is, it's quiet for 3 days, because we all know that 3 is a spooky number in the spirit world. Well, like, it can be. But they thought they were, beginning to be safe. But then after three days, trouble stirred up again. Latoya claimed that the demons possessed her and her 3 children at separate times and would come and go without warning. She said that she knew the kids were possessed because their eyes would bulge and flare, and they'd have sinister smiles, as well as they'd say cryptic words and phrases in like a different voice. They would feel lightheaded, fatigued, they'd have headaches all day, and each child was tormented differently. The 7-year-old, who was the youngest of the three, would speak of an imaginary friend who would play with him in the closet for hours and would tell him what it's like to be killed. And then he'd go and like tell his parents, like, oh yeah, like my friend told me what it's like to be killed in the closet, whatever.
Oh, it's also scary. Like if your own kids were possessed, I can't even imagine like what you do.
Oh my god, I know. But he also came flying out of the bathroom at one point by some tremendous force. Then the 9-year-old, the middle child, would speak about what it's also like to be like killed. But the 12-year-old daughter would hear disembodied voices telling her she was going to die in 20 minutes and that her family was going to be taken away. She also was attacked by a heavy headboard so badly that she needed stitches. She would see shadowy figures and would go into a trance often. The occurrences and attackings would get so bad that the family would go stay at a hotel some nights. They started to feel helpless, so they turned to their family physician for help, but he was just more concerned for their mental health, thinking that they were delusional and had hallucinations, and didn't believe that they were actually being haunted by demonic presences. But according to medical staff's testimony in the DCS files, the two boys began cursing the doctor in low, growling voices, and the younger boy levitated and was thrown against the office wall by an unseen force, and then both the boys fainted.
At the DCS office?
No, at the
Or where was
doctor's
it?
office.
Oh, at the doctor's office. What
Mm-hmm.
the?
Yeah, and so they were taken to the nearby hospital, and when the younger boy, so the older brother, he woke up and he was back to normal, but the younger one woke up and he apparently had to be held down by 5 of the men in the hospital.
Oh my gosh.
So after this whole situation, the Department of Children's Services was reported. So when the caseworker arrived, they discovered the family to be just fine until she interviewed the youngest boy. They didn't notice any bruises. They thought that they were all in their right mind. Like, they seemed normal, fine. But then she interviewed the younger boy, and that's where, like, things were not fine. So he was growling with his teeth showing, like a dog, like growling with like a dog, you know. His eyes bulged and rolled back, like rolled into the back of his head, so his like the whites of his eyes were showing. And then he attempted to strangle his brother. So his
What
older
the
brother.
heck?
Yeah, I know, it's crazy.
And he was really young too, wasn't he? Like 7.
He was 7, the older was 9.
9. Okay.
And so when that happened, multiple adults had to help pry this 7-year-old's hands off of his brother's throat. So after this, they put the boys into an isolated exam room with a nurse and their grandmother. And again, the younger boy began to growl, and this time telling his older brother, it's time to die.
Oh my god, I bet his brother was so scared.
At the same time, the older boy began thrusting his head into his grandma's stomach. So he's like punching her with his head, and Rosa grabbed his hand and began to pray. Still holding his hand, he showed her a sinister grin, got up from where they were. He walked backwards several steps and up the wall to the ceiling and glided across the ceiling over his grandmother and then landed on his feet.
Oh my god, this is so terrifying.
Holding her hand still. He never let her hand go.
So she was just like floating?
I don't think she was maybe she was standing and maybe the room was small, but like they never let go of their hands. And my thought was like, oh my god, he's like breaking her arm or something.
Yeah,
like going like this, you know. But they didn't share if she was injured from that. But the nurse and the caseworker that was also in that room, they saw this. So
that's what I'm wondering. Like, did other people see this shit, or was it just the family?
Nope.
Like, what the heck?
Those 2 people saw, so they were able to be like, whoa, like this shit is real, you know? So
ew, that's so scary.
Yeah, so they stayed at the hospital for quite a few days, and they were there long enough to catch the attention of the hospital chaplain. The morning of April 20th, 2012, the hospital called Father Michael Magano, I think it's Magano, so I'm just going to say Magano, at Stephen Martyr Catholic Church in Merrillville, and asked him to perform an exorcism on one of their patients, being Latoya's youngest son. He was like, well, you have to get the bishop's approval or something before I can do an exorcism, but what's going on? And so they explained to him what the nurses had seen the boy do. And on Sunday, April 22nd, Father Magano arrived to the home of the family. And at this point, the older siblings were in foster care. So the older brother and the sister, and the younger one was locked up in a child psychiatric unit.
That makes sense. He tried to kill someone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The investigation took about 6 weeks. So, I think the investigation on like the kids and like what's going on in the house. But during their interview, so during the time that Father Magano was at their house, it was a 4-hour interview the first time. And the bathroom light would flicker, and when he would get up to go investigate it further, it would stop flickering.
Of course.
And then the blinds on the kitchen window would swing back and forth, and they would see wet footprints in the living room. Father Magano thought that just the kids were possessed, so he was trying to figure that part out, but then when he initially went there, he just thought it was the kids. But then after the whole interview and everything, he realized that Latoya was actually also possessed. So he placed a crucifix against her forehead to test it out, see if she would respond. And she immediately started convulsing. When he took it off of her, she stopped.
Damn, okay.
The priest believed the house had demons, but also ghosts. So not infested by just demons, but also had like actual dead spirits.
Yeah. Like harmless ghosts and then evil spirits.
Yeah. So, and I guess that kind of makes sense. Like if there was the imaginary friend of a little boy, I don't know, because that could have been a demon, but whatever. So a few days later, the caseworker and police officers came to check the condition of the home. During the visit, one of the officers' audio recorder's power light flashed to show it was on low battery, even though the officer had placed fresh batteries in the recorder earlier that day. Another officer found an unknown voice whisper, "Hey," on the recorder when replaying back the recording. And there's record of this. Like if you were to look up this, you could hear it in someone's YouTube video about the story.
And this is so recent. I feel like you only hear about these cases back in the 90s or something. This is 2012. What? How is there no movies? Is there movies about this?
There is I know that there's a movie, and I'm gonna tell you about it at the end. But yeah, there is a movie. So photos were taken, and in one of the photos, you could see a cloudy white image in the upper right-hand corner. And when they enlarged it, they saw it resembled a face, and then also noticed that they captured a green image of a female in the photo as well. In other photos that they took on their phones and stuff, they would see silhouettes. On May 10th, 2012, Rosa, Latoya, and the 3 officers from that last visit returned to the house. Part of why they returned to the house was based on a recent series of creepy visits from Latoya's ex-boyfriend, which led Father Magano to believe that he had possibly put a curse on the family. She was seeing this man for some time when she found out he was actually married. The man's wife called Latoya and was like, "This is my husband, whatever." She was pretty pissed. So Latoya, she not intentionally being a homewrecker, she broke it off with him, but he still continued to pursue her. So he would show up at her house unannounced. Sometimes he'd ask to see her kids while he was while she was working. And in an interview, he was asked. Or not he, sorry. In an interview, I think it was either the police or the Father Magano, whether he believed that Latoya's ex had anything to do with what was going on in her family. And he said, quote, Maybe he put a curse on the mother. He had once asked her for an article of underwear as a souvenir. Around that time, Latoya also had a family picture disappear from her album, and a pair of her shoes disappeared. Personal
Oh.
items are often used in curses against a person. Latoya received an angry phone call from a woman who said she was a boyfriend's wife. Latoya said she never knew he was married and was going to break up with him anyway. The lady warned her that she was going to be very, very sorry that she ever had anything to do with him.
Oh God. So do you think it was like her or him?
Honestly, it probably was her. Well, I don't
Yeah.
know because if he's asking for her clothing items like while they were together,
Or maybe they did it together. Maybe he was like, "Oh, like the devil persuaded
oh
me to
yeah,
cheat
maybe
on you.
because
Let's," yeah,
because
I don't know, some weird shit. You know what men come up with.
yeah.
Excuses.
I know that I think prior to them moving in, there was never any like ghost activity. Like there was never anything. So that's why they're like maybe that this is all just like from a curse, you know? Cuz
That's fucked up to curse little kids.
I'm confused though because if he they said that they found out her new address, which would be the Carolina Street, but then the like where I don't know. Oh, I don't know. I'm confused. I'm confused. Some of this stuff doesn't add up. Okay. But anyways, so during the search in the house, they went to the basement and started digging up the dirt area where Latoya says the demons originated from, or yeah, originate from. That there's a pile of dirt underneath the stairs. They're like, that's where the demons come from. They removed 4 feet of dirt, and under it, they found a press-on fingernail, a sock, a political button, and a pair of boys' socks with the feet cut out, a lid for a pan, and a pair of underpants. But they didn't know who these items belonged to.
Yeah, what the hell? It's just like a bunch of random
Yeah,
items.
but if it's like,
But what if those like belonged to the dead or something?
ooh, yeah. So after that, Father Magano came back to do a few exorcisms on the house and Latoya. In June of 2012 was the final exorcism where they believe Latoya had been freed from possession. She regained custody of her children that fall and they moved to Indianapolis.
I was thinking too, like just to add to the dirt pile thing. I know I'm not obviously like too savvy on witchcraft, but I know that you can just like offer anything to like demons or gods or whatever. And if they take your offering, they take it. So it could just be like random shit that they found to offer to like the demons. Like something it meant to
Or maybe
them.
even like
I don't
something
know.
that sort of resembled them, even if it wasn't theirs, you know?
Yeah.
But Father Magano was interviewed, and I wanted to share some of the things that were said. He was interviewed a few times, but this one interview had like a lot more information. So the interviewer asked if he had experienced any residue from the exorcisms at home or in his church. Um, I feel like this is like what kind of makes me believe that none of it was a hoax, because an actual priest is telling you like what he saw and witnessed and whatever. So Father Magano said, quote, after the exorcism and also toward the end of it, at our parish we had several storms come through at that time when the last exorcism had been done. One was after Mass on Saturday, and it knocked out all the lights in the church, but they were able to get the lights back on before our 9 o'clock Mass. The second time was the longest, around the 4th of July. This was right around the time of the final exorcism. We were doing the exorcism in the church, and Latoya's mouth was moving, but nothing was coming out. And the lights went out.
I don't
Again.
like that. Oh.
Later, she told me that she was trying to tell me that something was trying to lift her up. The demon may have tried to gather the energy to do that. They weren't able to do it because we were in the church. After the 4th of July, we had another storm come in and it knocked out our power for more than a day. Now, when he says storm, I don't know if he's talking about like a spiritual storm or like an actual storm that like knocks out power.
Yeah.
But it was about 90 degrees at the church, and my rectory was horrible, trying to sleep at about 85 degrees at night. But then they got the power back on 30 hours later. 30
30
hours.
hours?
That's over a
Oh.
day.
Okay, but like imagine having to fucking sleep there by yourself after doing that shit. No thanks.
Yeah,
And no thanks. Had
absolutely
to get in
not.
a hotel.
Yeah. Or like go to your house. Or do priests live just in the church
I
and not
think
in
they
the
live
house?
at the church most of the time.
Scary. I wonder if they had nightmares there.
I mean, it's
um,
like a sacred place to them, so maybe not.
I
Maybe
don't
they
know.
just feel safe because of their faith, but like no, no. No amount of faith would make me feel safe.
Yeah, same. Then another storm came and knocked out the power in the church again. We had mass by candlelight, and we brought out these candelabras. I'm not sure, and lit all the
Don't know what that
candles.
is.
That was beneficial because a week after that, right in the middle of mass, the power went out again, and so we brought in the candelabras and lit the candles again without missing a beat. We never had a loss of power like that. Never. All right, so that's pretty much it. But I also wanted to note that the paranormal investigator that we know and love so much, Zach Bagans from the TV show Ghost Adventures, he purchased this house for $35,000 in 2014. He was so intrigued by all of the happenings and wanted to investigate it. He even made a documentary. I think it's a documentary or just a movie that's on Amazon Prime. So go check that out if you haven't seen it. But Zach ended up demolishing the house in 2016. And the basement steps and other artifacts from the house are now on display in his haunted museum in Las Vegas.
What the heck? So did he say that he had experiences with it too then? Because it's kind of weird if it was like a curse. Like
So
you think
if I'm not sure if, so yeah, I'm not sure if it was a curse, but apparently the priest, he was like,
that's just a theory.
yeah, the priest was worried that after Zach demolished the house that it was gonna like unleash the demons, and like the demons were
Yeah.
gonna like walk the earth and everything, not just stay there. And I know that he had experiences there. People outside of the house would see like a silhouette of a person in the window. So like it's like other people seeing stuff going on at the house too. But the house is gone. I don't know like what the property is like now, but yep.
That's so crazy. I wonder if like what did he buy it immediately pretty much after, or was there anyone else that lived there between her leaving and him?
I'm not sure. I mean, it wasn't immediately after because I know that they moved to Indianapolis, I think in 2012, right? I think it was 2012.
Mm.
So it was at least a year and something months or 2 years before he bought the house. But I'm sure with all of like the interviews and everything that she was like telling, or because Latoya was like sharing her story and people knew about what
Yeah.
was going on. So I doubt anyone wanted to buy that house. So that's why he bought it for so
No.
cheap, like
Only
35.
Zach Bagans would buy that stupid
Only Zach
house.
Bagans. But yeah, super cheap, $35,000. And then he like demolished the house. So he made his movie, and then I think he demolished it halfway through.
Dang.
Because I think the movie came out in 2016.
Is that the only movie that's out about it?
Well, I saw another movie called Demon House, but I'm not sure if that was based on this case. But I know the Zach Bagans one is at least.
Yeah,
I think that
definitely.
might actually be like the only one. Maybe I'm not sure. I haven't even seen it yet. I was gonna watch it today, but I feel like I was feeding myself like too much of like this exorcism stuff since I started writing about it, and I was like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna stop
Yeah,
for
it's really
now.
hard. It's
Yeah.
really hard whenever you like live alone, but also when we're both like scared of this stuff. So when
Yeah.
we research these, we're just like, I can't take it.
Yeah,
Like you have to take breaks. I can't even watch scary movies by myself. Like, I don't know how you would even watch it alone. Like, I can't even watch Ghost Adventures without watching it with someone.
What? That's so funny though. Like
It scares me,
they make
dude.
it like funny, kind of.
I hate the sound of like the noise boxes. How it's just like
Yeah, and it's so loud and they're like in the dark. Like they're nuts. I
Yeah,
think about that all the time. I'm like, how oh, do you watch Twin Paranormal? I think we talked about this in the last episode. I can't
I
remember.
haven't seen it.
Oh my god, you gotta watch Twin Paranormal. They're a YouTube channel of like these two like emo looking guys with like all these piercings and tattoos and colored hair. Like they're so like cool and like sweet. Like they really like care about these spirits and like I don't know. They're like wholesome. Like it's like a
Yeah, I'll
wholesome.
have to check it out.
Yeah, you got it. It's good. But they're always like in the dark and I'm like, how I'm scared of the dark. Hell
I'm
no.
way scared of the dark. I can't be in the dark for longer than like 5 seconds without starting to like physically
Like
panic. Like,
hyperventilate and shit and like
yeah, it's so bad.
I get
Like,
like
I've had to sleep
chills.
with a nightlight or a TV on my whole life,
I
basically.
still do that and now that I have like my tiny little Christmas tree, I have like my Christmas lights and I like to have those on, but then whenever Legacy spends the night, he turns off all my lights and I'm like, I
Yeah.
want those on. And so I've given him like my eye mask. So I'm like, you're just gonna sleep with this eye mask because I want my damn lights on. And I sleep
Yeah.
with my TV on. Like, ugh. Oh my
Yeah,
god.
we had to compromise because my boyfriend, like, he can't sleep with sound on. He has to sleep with a fan on for the white noise, and I have to sleep with a nightlight. So he sleeps with the fan on, I sleep with the nightlight on, and we both win. And I
Yeah.
got used to the fan, and the fan is nice. Now I can't sleep without it, even when it's cold. I wanted to tell you that a few months ago, I actually almost had sleep paralysis again,
No.
but I was able to like get myself out of it before anything happened. And I just like kept my eyes closed because I was like, I don't want to see nothing. Like, and I literally could not move my body, but I just kept saying in my head over and over, like, you're okay. You're just sleeping. You can get out of this.
Oh
Like,
my
wake
god.
up. It's okay. Just slowly try to move your arm. And like, eventually, like, I think it was only like maybe like 2 minutes, but I don't know exactly how long it was. But yeah, I was like, oh, I almost had sleep paralysis. No thanks. It's been a
That's
while.
scary. I don't even want to think about that. I don't want to think about that. I don't
I'm
want to
sorry.
think about that because me and Legacy are trying to like. I told him like I want us to like not spend the night together unless it's our weekend because I don't have routine anymore and I need routine.
Yeah.
Like with him, it's hard to make a routine because all we want to fucking do is cuddle. So it's like I need to be in my apartment alone, sleep alone, so I can wake up and do my yoga and have like my morning routine, you know. And
Yeah.
I'm afraid of like getting sleep paralysis and I'm by myself. Like, thank you for reopening that
I'm so
fear.
sorry.
Thank you.
Listen, it probably won't happen,
I
but
am,
if it does,
yeah.
just remember to talk to yourself in your head. Like, you're okay, you're fine. Because for me, like, if I start to panic, then that's when it gets bad, you know?
Yeah.
So I just have to talk myself down and be like, it's okay, breathe. But you probably won't have it. I mean, you never have.
I've had it once.
Oh, you did? Oh, I
Yeah.
thought you never
No,
had.
I've had it once. I don't really remember it. It was a long time ago, but I've had it once. It wasn't anything too crazy. I physically could not move, but that was it. I didn't see anything. I
Yeah.
didn't hear anything. My body was like stuck and I was like, whoa. I don't even think I could open my eyes.
I only
It was
saw
weird.
something one time, and that was the story that I shared with you guys a long time ago.
Okay, well, thanks guys for listening to our episode 30. And I guess we'll just see ya in our next episode.
We'll catch you on episode 31 or a morbid mini. I don't know what we're doing first because we're just kind of flying by the seat of our pants.
Also, if you guys have any ghost stories or anything that you want to share with us, email it to us at taleoftwodeadgirls@gmail.com. Our email will be in the show notes. And it's also on our Instagram, which is Tale of Two Dead Girls. So please send us in your stories. We would love to share them in a next Morbid Mini episode. We'll meet you 6 feet under.